we have here?
You're on tape.
We have a community of practice at this table.
Go ahead, Liz.
Sure. And I think we all came up with our individual ideas of what community practice could be, and then we collaborated on how they might connect with each other and how they might connect across all the different areas. So, for example, we started over here with some of the interests in animals that led to the connection with work with animals, that led to some of the practice.
OT, interventional relationship,
Okay.
You want to add?
Well, I was just looking at the dangling participles.
Okay. What do you have to say about the dangling participles?
They're all, this is in action. It's a dynamic living being.
Yeah.
Okay, not
We
everybody
have,
can read
we
these, so
have
you want to give us...
clusters, and then we sort of trickle
Okay.
into
Okay.
extraneous.
Dogs, animals, I can't read these upside down. Somebody
So there's a Bernal.
So this is tops to the top, right? Bernal OT and AOTA, Bernal Research Scholarship, AOTA Academia and AOTA, shared courses.
So there's a bunch of AOT, a bunch of Bernal stuff. Go ahead. A bunch of
Yeah, then
overlap.
I had OT buddies, but that was connecting off with some of the OT practice people are doing, and then more connection with others in the community, which is building a community between here at the university and those who practice. And then, should we go down this road, guys? Sure. Okay, so here we start seeing some more of the individual interests outside of OT, which is choir, music, Zumba, tennis, quilting. And then we see the connections to the outside world also through church, through family, through nature, and yoga. A lot with family and a lot of interpretations of family and fun friends. So as you can see, our
We have
base.
international.
I love
Wow.
Love it.
So what did the rest of you all find? Similar kinds of things? How many of your communities actually did overlap or were contingent within your own communities? Let's just start off with that. Like 2, 3, 4, most of them, all of them? Some of them. Some of them? How about overlapping across people at your table?
We were in parallel play.
You were in parallel play?
Yeah, I think we were in parallel play.
What do you mean by that?
We looked at our own thing, we didn't
We're
connect
brainstorming.
together.
Right, but I'm saying, do your communities connect?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like what? Which
Well,
one?
for Bernal, for instance, and then, like for me, my professional organization, ASHT, connects with both my Bernal piece and the students that are interested in maybe hand therapy, and then my other life, my work life.
Right.
That and the field leadership. And then, of course, the leadership piece for me connects to my life here, my work life, and then even my church life, because I'm guest services for Faith Life. So all those leadership pieces kind of through.
Yeah.
And then to your mom life.
And then my mom life, of course, is about leading a bunch of cats with a rubber band. So
Herding cats?
Which is always entertaining.
Other folks?
I just had a comment that, like, there's certain communities you're in, but you're in them, and maybe you don't care about being in them, but you're in them. Like I put the beach community, because we go to the beach once a month, and it's like, I don't care about my neighbors, no offense to them. I care about getting away from my life.
Right.
But yet I'm still part of that beach community, so like I get pissed that my neighbors don't take care of their condo.
Yeah.
But so like I'm still in it even though it's not, do you know what I mean? Like I value it and don't value it at the same time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So we
It's-
participate in communities at different levels, is what you're...
Right, yeah, and this one I like want to be there but not contribute. But yet I want other people to contribute.
You're on the outer edge.
Mary, I didn't, and apparently my table didn't think of the true nature of the communities we live in. Like, it's true. I mean, I have neighbors I've had for 16 years. We
Right.
have a community because we live on a no-outlet street. We
Right.
have lived together for all that time.
I say we coexist.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not like I'm like this with my neighbors. If something happens, I'm sure we'd look out for each other, but it's like we're there together, but yet,
You respect one another's privacy for one thing.
yeah, and that's why I live where I live. I used to live in one of those true cookie cutter subdivisions, and that wasn't my bag.
Yeah,
Because I'm just more like, I want to do my own thing.
right.
Really?
parallel place.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not neighbor people. We're not, I mean,
You're surprised that she just wants to do her own thing?
we're,
But she's not a neighbor person.
no, I'm not. And like, I'll say hi to them
Yeah.
and talk to them every now and then. My husband, who's the quiet one, is more of the, he knows all the neighbors' business because he walks the dogs.
Oh, yeah.
But I know nothing that goes on in the neighborhood.
So,
Okay.
what kind of takeaways from this might apply to our Grinnell community practice?
Well, it dawns on me that I worked with a gentleman one time who would sometimes call us seagulls, where we would fly in, dump a load and leave.
Oh.
And I realized that there are some issues or themes on our table that have us be seagulls, where we're just brushing by it.
Mm.
And then there are other communities where we have dug deep,
Uh-huh.
deep,
Yeah.
and have put LY on it because it's important.
Mhm.
Dug deeply and are indeed the essence of the word committed.
Mhm.
You see. So when I hear Mary speak, I think of the brushing the surface
Yeah.
and the digging.
And the digging deep.
And
Well, I
how
think
committed
about
she
our-
is here,
our
to your
teaching.
neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, did anybody put their family of origin?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think about our teaching
Yeah.
in that, you know, we are sticking our toe in the water with these students in their lives, but we are all so connected. There's only 2 degrees of freedom for, you know, a lot of us in so
1
many
degree
things.
of separation for
Yeah.
Janine Craig.
There you go. But that we need to be mindful that these are our future colleagues and that our relationships, our communities of practice are going to be interwoven at some point. And so it's important
They
to
already
remember
are.
that. They already
As long as
are.
they're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're still helping them understand what a community of practice is. I mean, I think,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe because I've got the first year students, I can see the difference with the second year students. But the first year students, they know they're together all the time. They have to be. That's sort of like, yeah, we're neighbors, but we're together all the time. And then within that community, they begin to think, who
Little
can I work with? And
sub-communities,
subgroups.
yeah.
And then the other piece is how do we start understanding this occupation that we are developing a career around? And I think it's very much helping them think about what a community of practice. Maybe sometimes it's right. Sometimes our involvement in it, we're just standing on the side, dipping our toes in, and
Mhm.
sometimes we're totally submerged.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that in different courses as well, and different areas of practice.
Good point.
I think there's, you know, you were talking about the digging in deeply versus the brushing the surface, and it ebbs and flows between, you know, sometimes like right now, my digging in deeply is my family. It's just my whole thoughts, you know, all of my interests have kind of fallen away. I said I'm occupationally deprived at the moment because this so required. But the other thing that
Because you're deeply occupationally rich.
in one way. So, but the other thing that I think about is that as a community of practice, like Jennifer and I overlap in our practice areas, but we may be polar opposites in our social interests, but we still connect practice-wise, still socially engaged, find support in each other, that kind of thing. And that's important. We have to teach our students that just because you don't necessarily socialize with a person, how to connect with them in a different way. So,
And I think that's really important in relation to the university itself, as we look at the College of Health Sciences, physical therapy starting up. I know there's been a history of nursing and psychology and all. So for me, I'm kind of interested in, so how can we, like you say, we may not hang out with them, but we need to work with them, so we need to build some things. So.
I was struck by, as I was putting together my community practice, which seemed small to me compared to my previous life, that when you're in transition lasts a long time. And so communities are very changeable, and they, and I think about our students and some of the comments I've been reading in the student satisfaction surveys, et cetera, about just losing, the sense of losing their life when they come to the program, and how their communities are probably shifting and changing, and how stressful that is for them to be able to try to recreate some sort of their communities as they go through this 3-year program. And I think I just need to be more mindful of that.
I think there's a positive way of looking at how the richness of one community practice, you can't help but influence it in surrounding areas. We all bring, whether it be animals or arts or whatever, into our practice, and that's what we're fostering in the students, even though they may not be as engaged in occupations that they once were before they were full-time students, but don't let go of the fact that half the weekend cohort were special ed teachers.
Yeah.
Don't let go of that.
Yeah.
You know, because, yeah.
Another thing that I thought of was the lasting impression, whether it's a deep one or a swoop in, it's still lasting.
Yes.
And I think of the students that I was with in my own cohort here, and there were many times when they would, just in this class getting done and out of here, and they didn't think about, we're all gonna remember you, we're all gonna remember how you were in this class, we're gonna remember our professors, whether they saw us that one class, but we all remember.
Yes, and that's very important. And you never know, students,
Mhm.
others have been in this for a while, in their area, their conferences, students, you have no idea
Mm-hmm.
where,
I bet
It's
you
like
got a lot of that over your menu.
well, I recognize your face, but I forget your name, it's like, but,
Yeah. And the traditions, the sort of generational pieces of that too. If you think about going to University of Florida and Alice Jansen, who was a huge impact on anybody who connected with Alice, and how strange it was when I moved up to Pennsylvania, and I realized that Helen Hoppy was their Alice.
Oh,
Like in
yeah.
the Southeast, it was all Alice, and up
Right.
there it was all Hoppy.
Yep.
There are these people around, and these are people that, most of them are dead now, but they would be in their, 90s
Yeah.
probably,
Mhm.
Alice would be, no, she'd be over that, she'd be 100 and something, yeah. But you had Alice.
Yes.
And I had Alice, and so, did anybody else in here? have
And there's a
Alice?
connection, that's
Yeah,
there's
and-
an overlap.
Susan,
Overlap.
right? Susan, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah.
One in Newberry out west.
And I had Hoppy.
You had,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we had Ellie Guilfoyle.
Yeah.
I was saying Eleanor Clark
yes.
Schlegel, but I didn't think you were
Yes.
Ellie
Ellie
Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle and
Oh,
Wanda
Ellie.
Mayberry.
Yeah.
Wanda
Yeah.
Mayberry,
Yeah.
the CSU.
Yeah, and all of those people we connect with through, a number of us connect with through AOTA because we still see generational pieces of folks. And like Carol Gwen, who used to be at AOTA,
Yeah.
was a major support to Alice Jansen as Alice Jansen got cancer and had an extended illness. And I would see her at conference every year and kind of know where Alice was. And so I got to see her not only as like a faculty member, but also sort of at a personal level. I was privy at certain times to her struggling with that, and I think we all have people like that. So it's really interesting how this reverberates at many levels. So, anyway.
And it just seems to me the OT community, I always tell the students, is very small too, compared to maybe other professions. And so things, like Janine said, have a lot fewer than 6 degrees of separation.
Oh, yeah, Charles, what was it? Who was I talking about the other day that you were, her? Was it Denise Chisholm? No, it was
Yeah,
somebody else.
it was someone up there, yeah.
Because he was
Right.
at
But
Pitt, right?
Yes.
Which is,
Right.
so we were in the same.
And then
Hey,
Tamara has that connection. There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's right. With Joan
Right.
Rogers,
I
and
almost
Joan
put the
Rogers,
cat
of course,
down.
is a huge
Right.
influence on
Yeah.
my life. I was just like,
I almost put the post-it cap down.
Yeah, Tamara went to FAMU, her chair.
yeah. So, I mean, it's really kind of stunning. And I laughed when you said UJ alumni, because I'm a UJ alumni, and it never really occurred to me, other than when I need a discount. I can't forget that. Yeah, that's right. Football game this weekend.
Well, just to remember you though, how many schools do you get alumni requests for money from? They come, yeah.
This is true. They find you.
You're part of their community.
In South Dakota.
Yeah.
And then you start getting your children's along.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it's an area university.
So Kay, I like your bowl. Can you talk to us about your bowl of practice? I love this. She mindfully made a bowl. as
Yeah,
opposed to-
lovely.
as your
Well,
overlay.
it didn't start mindfully, it started just by the stapler, but then I decided I would go ahead and do that. Brenau is in the middle, and I guess there or my family would have been there, but like I said, it didn't start mindfully. But I was just telling John that I think in terms of
of all these, right now where I am, my community of practices seem to take too much, and there's never enough. And so I feel like there's the bowls, there's only this much anyway, and it just gets siphoned around. So like I can't do certain things, I have to pull back from them while other ones are taking more time.
Yeah.
That's totally where I am. So-
What our students go through.
But yeah, definitely in the student mode. So, but it's interesting to see the interconnections, like with through the falls and stuff, and then like with Kathy coming on with the PT and the motor control aspects that I'm interested in, and trying to just see all that.
Yeah.
You know, it dawns on me that bowls have slippery sides, and it's so hard to hold the boundary of the plate and not have it all slide down into the Bernal pile.
That's
really great.
You're deep.
Pile.
Ooh.
That's a climb lead.
Man.
Yes,
Deep
yes.
lead.
Yeah, she's profound.
Deep lead. Lead.
I think this might be a good exercise for us to have our students continually re-engaging, because I think one of the things
Right.
this helps to do is to
Foundations.
prioritize. You know, when they have so many things in the air going,
So many
sometimes
plates spinning
so
in
many
the
plates
air.
spinning, that sometimes it really, okay, let's get down, what are the core, what are my priorities, and we need to resettle on.
Which one can you put aside?
Exactly.
Which ones are magical thinking?
And I think it also helps us see what our students' priorities are too, because if their priority is the family and we assume that Bernal is their priority, we need
Good
to maybe
point.
adjust that and sort of look at that and look at the big picture for them as well. Because I think I get caught in, oh, it's Bernal's the priority, but you know, it may be church or it may be family or it may be something else, and that's okay.
Honestly, that's one of the struggles I get into in the conversation we were having earlier about some people left, you know, whatever, boot camp early, and we always want to control this stuff, but I'm always wondering about what else is going on, which makes for there's a lot of downside to this. As we talk through stuff today, we're going to be talking, I think that's why Wendy was saying, well, what are our practices? Like, which things are we holding on to the most? Because I know having an appreciation of all of that stuff results in me not being a very good rule maker, for instance. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a good rule maker because I'm too busy understanding all the different sides of the story, which sometimes is helpful and sometimes is not helpful. But it's like it's almost like ethics. When we get into a dilemma, what are going to be our guiding, which principle is going to be more guiding than the other principle? And the deal is that communities evolve and change. And so that's one reason why I felt like this really is a good topic for today, because look at where we are. I mean, we are very much in a process of transition. We're inducting people in, if you will, but we're also changing, because the community doesn't stay. There's this notion, and I didn't draw the pictures, I'll just talk about it now, of participation and reification. It's a sociological kind of notion of you sort of view your community in one way, and then when it starts to shift, because other people join it and they interpret it in a different way, so the participation changes what you thought was. So like Aunt Nellie was very reified to begin with. I mean, she was very much a part of the early cohort. She was in every lab, she was in every orientation. She was sort of like our
Mascot.
And then as other people joined and couldn't relate to Aunt Nellie in the same kind of way, Aunt Nellie either got in the closet or got lost or just got forgotten in orientation. And so it shifted. And I'm not saying we have to bring her back, but she's a good symbol for this issue of,
What are we
reification,
about?
participation, reification being acting like something that's real that really is a socially made up construct. But you have to have some of those. I mean, I think of like the OT initial evaluation form is a reification of clinical reasoning. It's often, if we have any control over it, what we think we should be finding out in the beginning. So that's a reification. And then participation is, and you know how people don't fill those out all the way. They choose which parts of the form to fill out. Do you know what I mean? So that's the way it happens, and that's happening with our community. And I think that's fine as long as we're mindful about it a bit. That we take the time to reflect on it and say, okay, where are we now? Because it's not going to work for us to all be off in different directions. I mean, it can happen. I think it does happen in a lot of cases. But I'm not sure it's optimal either for the faculty or the students or the larger community practice. So.
I think that what's transition also, I'm feeling very much of the transition, being here based in Gainesville and having people that were
traditionally based here now go to Norcross.
Yeah.
And that is really very much, I feel it all the time.
Yeah, you
And
miss
then
people.
I miss people
Yeah.
tremendously, and those in the hallway
Yeah.
talks are just to see the person, like, how did you feel today, how's your family, what's going on. It's gotta be done through phone or text or
Yeah.
other ways, and it really, and the new people that are down there, whereas I would get to know them better
In the hallway
in the hallway,
and in the lunchroom.
I'm not having necessarily the opportunity to do that, and then we have our separate program meetings that we're gonna have, plus our school meetings. But I'm definitely feeling that the transition and wondering too, because I'm gonna be following a course throughout every platform. So I'll be in Norcross, but where am I gonna be? You know,
Yeah.
like where do I fit in?
Right.
That's because participation is out of balance with purification. And
Oh.
when you're in transition, participation becomes reunification.
Oh, that's
And it
interesting.
becomes duals. Because now we have to have interpretation of very ambiguous situation. Now we've got to have some rules to figure out. So it becomes participation.
Mhm.
And those balances for reunification. But then as you mature as an organization, it'll probably go the other way, where you just live life to help the rules. Right
Well,
now,
and sometimes you get into,
It's about, let's get the rules down.
and then you get into over-reification of, and that comes out as, this is the way we've always done it. That's over-reification. I mean, that's where you're not letting the participation in. So it's a delicate leadership balance for all of us. You know what I mean? It's not just a leadership balance for me or the department chairs or whatever. It's really a leadership balance for all of us, because part of what's happening is, in fact, the provost makes fun of me because I pretty much everybody has a title in this department. So you draw the organizational chart, it's like 4,000 titles, because I really believe in a very distributed approach to stuff, and then people can focus on things, you know. But it's a leadership challenge to figure out what to reify, when to change with participation, when to hold with what we've reified, you know.
The other transition for our students, well, I haven't seen a cohort from start to finish here, but I have, where I came from, and there's a group thought, and they're learning together, and they're working in community together, but all along, you're moving them towards autonomy, and when they get to that level 2 jumping off point, and they're absolutely panic stricken, what they're gonna do without their best buddy, that they were group thinking.
Or if they ask, is there gonna be clinical reasoning during, Bill too? I've gotten that question a lot. I'm like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna have clinical reasoning?
Well,
The other thing that comes to my mind is maybe because of the WWOOF-IT piece, but I always think about having to come up for air and look around me, and my consumers are such a diverse community. The Chicano Latino community, the African American community. I come from Spokane, where we all are white, and here we are in a community where the majority of us are female, and so I have to keep coming up for air and looking around and realizing that I'm carrying this identity with me, and I don't even realize how it impacts the community. And then I have people come into the productive living clinic, and I am of the majority, not necessarily, but I certainly am of the privilege. And how does all of that impact my consumer community? And that, we're training here, but we're going out there. And so I have to keep coming up for air and looking around and realizing, wow, diversity. And the D word gets pounded a lot, but the reality of it is right here.
oh, sure. That's what makes it fun, I think. But
Yeah, sure.
That's what makes it- Well, thank you all for engaging in this process. This is good.